What's up guys, this is episode 7 of ranking every WCA event on a tier list, and today we're doing the most edible looking. This is a super weird prompt and I'm actually quite excited for this one just because of how unique and weird it is. Throughout this series we've done pretty serious prompts, but this one's just for a bit of fun. And like always, I'm going to be sorting these 17 events into 6 tiers, S tier being the highest, E tier being the lowest. And then after we've done this tier list, each event is going to get a certain number of points depending on the tier. Each event in the same tier will get the same number of points, and this will go into a giant spreadsheet to determine the quote-unquote best WCA event overall. Alright, so most edible is kind of a weird topic because there's no really objective basis that we can go on. It's not like how cool the event is, how fast it is, how good people are at it. It's just purely which one looks the most edible. However, one event that does not look edible whatsoever is clock. Like yes, all these events look like plastics. All of them don't look edible, but clock really just does not look edible one bit. I guess there could be arguments that clock kind of looks like licorice, but not really. Like I could see all of these could be some sort of like hard candy. However, clock is just one big chunk that looks like a piece of metal. Two events that deserve S tier are actually 7x7 and 6x6. When it comes to the N by Ns, I think there's a sort of advantage for N by N to either be really small or really big. Events like 6x6 and 7x7, I really think that when it's like scrambled, each piece looks like a different flavor. When you put it all together, it just looks kind of edible. I don't know what else to say. 7x7 definitely is higher than 6x6. So when I talk about big N by Ns looking edible, that's kind of what I mean. Then on the other side, the small cubes I think have the advantage of being really simple. So I'm actually going to put 2x2 in S tier as well. I'm probably going to put it at the bottom of S tier. Each of the pieces on 2x2 are quite big, and I really think after looking at like 3x3s, 4x, 5x5s, like 2x2 looks so simple. So obviously we have our more complicated scrambled 7x7 looking like a bunch of different flavors, but 2x2 more just looks like a simple one solid piece of food. 3x3, 4x4 and 5x5, it's sort of in the middle of the spectrum of between simple and complicated. I think I'm gonna put all these 3 in C tier. It's not like clock where they don't look inedible, but they don't look like actual food. I have no idea how to sort this C tier. 4x4s look bad, and what I mean, it looks asymmetrical. Odd numbered cubes feel quite sophisticated, purely a vibes based. 4x4 just feels kind of awkward how there's like no centers. So I think I'm gonna have to put 4x4 at the bottom of C tier. Even though 6x6 also doesn't have a center, it's sort of masked by the fact that there's more pieces and it's less noticeable. Whether 5x5 or 3x3 looks more edible, I'm not sure. I'm gonna put 5x5 higher. Alright, let's go and sort all the 3x3 variants. That is 3 blind, FMC, 1 hand, and multi-blind. And we're going to start with 3 blind. From a purely view perspective, a 3x3 should be identical to 3x3 blindfold. However, 3x3 blindfold also has the blindfold, and although that's technically not part of the puzzle, I'm going to consider it. If I were you, I would not eat a blindfold. Even if we didn't have the association that blindfolds were used in that context, I think just the soft cloth is something that I would not personally eat at all. So I'm going to have to put 3x3 blindfold below regular 3x3. So for FMC, we have a bit of a dilemma. We obviously have established that plastic could be theoretically edible with 7x7, 6x6, and 2x2 up here. However, we also have paper and pen. We obviously know that these are not edible things. However, are they more or less edible than plastic? I do think that paper itself feels quite appetizing. Like paper looks edible, it looks like food. Paper doesn't feel as artificial as plastic in that case. But on the other hand, the pen, I'm not gonna eat a pen. So I think the paper being more edible and the pen being less edible, I think they balance out. I'm going to put them next to 3x3 in C tier. I'm just going to put it just above 3x3 because FMC, they print in color because you have to see the scramble. I guess colorful paper is even more edible. And so that explains why FMC is above 3x3. Now, when it comes to one hand, a big argument is, do your hands count as part of the puzzle? And my argument is no, just because blindfold and paper pens, yes, they're part of the puzzle. However, the hand itself, that's what you use to solve with. So I don't think it's part of it. And therefore, we're only ranking it as 3x3. So I'm just going to put it next to 3x3. And I don't know, I'm going to put it below, just in case. And next, we have multi-blind. Obviously, we have a bunch of 3x3. However, the quantity of them are much more. My argument for multi-blind is if you look from like really far away, it looks like a bunch of small pieces of candy. Now I'm going back to this candy analogy, or I'm Australian, so lollies or whatever you call them here. If you look like a packet of like M&Ms, there's a bunch of different colors. And I think if you see multi-blind, an argument that if you look from really far away, it can look like a bunch of tiny pieces of food. With that being said, I don't think it looks as edible as like 7x7 or 6x6, just because they're still 3x3, they still look less edible, the innate property of them. However, if we look at all the cubes together, I could see someone mistaking them as food and therefore it looks edible. So I'm going to put it it in B tier, higher than regular 3x3. Alright, so now with the remaining blind events, put 3x3 in C tier, 3x3 blindfold in D tier, but I think it's only going to be fair that for 4x4 and 5x5 in C tier, we're going to put 4 blind and 5 blind in D tier. And I'm going to order it the exact same way I did in C tier, where I put 5x5 above 3x3 and 4x4 below 3x3. I think Pyraminx is A tier. Pyraminxes look so edible. The inspiration I've had to make this prompt was actually Pyraminx. When I was watching some Australian Nationals footage, I actually kind of looks like food, call me weird or something, but the way that the different triangular pieces are interlinked into one puzzle, you've got the tips, you've got the edges, and it all sort of comes together to something that you might find as like a cake or something. That's why I'm going to put Pyraminx in A. Skewb, on the other hand, is comparable to 3x3. I'm going to put it below 3x3 just because I think Skewb's a bit less even than all of the other cubes. Like we have 3x3 that's equal sized blocks. Pyraminx all comes together nicely, but the pieces of Skewb are really like different, and I just don't think it makes that much synergy. Yes, it could look edible, but I just don't think it looks that edible, and I'm not going to put it higher than C. Megaminx. And I think Megaminx has features of both 5x5 and 7x7. 7x7 because there are a bunch of different colorful pieces. They're quite small. They all come together really nicely to kind of look at different pieces of volleys. From experience, certain Megaminxes, I don't know the companies, but the finish on the pieces kind of looks tasty. I don't know. Then again, it's not that complicated and it still kind of does look plasticky. With big cubes, an argument that from a certain distance, it doesn't look that plasticky, but I just don't think Megaminx is big enough or has enough pieces on it to achieve that. So I think it's definitely better than 5x5, but it's gonna go in B tier with multi-blind, and I'm gonna put it above multi-blind, I think. And the final event, Square 1, if it's completely solved, it kind of just looks like a 3x3, probably a bit worse because of all the weird lines. It's not as even as 3x3, therefore feels less edible. When it's scrambled in cube shape, it's equal or better than 3x3, but it's completely scrambled out of cube shape, then it's E tier. It just looks like a mess, and it just, no. I think in general, Square 1 looks inedible in more context than it looks edible in. So I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. I am gonna put it at the top of D tier just because there are contexts where, yes, I could see someone thinking that it's edible, just because how uneven it looks when solved, and just because when it's completely scrambled, it looks like a mess. It's gonna go in D tier. And oh my god, that is the end of probably the weirdest tier list ever. Like always, we're gonna take the point rankings from this tier list and put it in a spreadsheet, and I'm gonna have a look at the overall rankings after episode 7. Alright, the spreadsheet has been updated, and as you can see in this column here, we have the most edible looking event. This is episode 7, and for a refresher, the number of points that an event gets is equal to the number of events in a lower tier. For instance, Clock at E tier has 0 points, all the D tier events got 1 point because Clock was the event that's lower, and the S tier events, such as 7x7, 6x6, and 2x2 got 14 points because there were 14 events in lower tiers. Over in this section here, you can see the number of times each event got a certain tier, but what we're really caring about is the ranking and points. At the moment, in first place is multi-blind. Second place is a tied finish between 2x2 and 3-blind with 64 points, and trailing behind in fourth place is 3x3 with 61 points. And that's really it for this video. It's a bit of a less conventional prompt, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing. Thank you and see ya.